everybody, welcome to another news roundup from What a Hell of a Way to Die. It's Francis again. This week is going to be a little truncated because my wife is going out of town and leaving me with the kid for a couple of days. And one of those days is the day that I normally do these recordings. So I am finding myself needing to kind of rush through this. It's Saturday night, big Saturday night, 9:30 for the 40-year-old. I'm making a fucking podcast. So hopefully you're doing a little bit better than me. But yeah, she's going to be out of town, and it is not easy when you have a 8-year-old who does not stop usually to, have her go somewhere and be quiet while I come out to the pod shack and record. That's just not conducive to what we have going on. So I'm recording this now. I've got a couple of other things that we'll kind of throw in, flesh it out a little bit here, I think, and I'm still going to get you your content because that's what the hogs need is their content. So I've got two news stories that we're going to go through today. The first one is Skillport, the Army ELearning is going away. If you're not in the Army currently and you haven't been in the Army kind of in the recent past, this isn't going to make much sense to you on its surface. But so Army ELearning was this great concept that they had where any soldier, any active duty reserve National Guard soldier could have free access to all kinds of learning, a lot of IT related stuff, and not only get access to the learning, but access to the examinations afterwards and certifications. Because being certified in these things, like I work in IT, I have zero certs whatsoever. I just go by the skin of my teeth. But good people who know what they're doing get certifications. They get network. They get A+ is like the first big one, and then you get network plus, and then you get security, and then there's higher and higher ones. You get when you get more specialized, you get into more things. So I only really know this from an IT perspective, but I understand because I've done these how much it costs. Like it's the classes themselves are incredibly expensive, and then the certification is expensive, and if you fail, you have to pay to do the exams again, and they're not cheap. We're talking a couple $100 each time you want to do these. And I've taken classes before. I took a ITIL class not too long ago that my company offered us for free, and I didn't do the certification. And most of the people who went through it failed too. The certs are hard; they're very hard to do, and you do need to be kind of a certain brain pattern to really to excel on those. I'm not one of those people. I'm very good at a lot of other things, but taking very technical exams has never been my forte. So that's not something that I got too far into. But so e-learning was used by a lot of people, who want to do IT, but there's like 3,500 different things that you could learn on here. And they've been updating it. Like in the last couple of years, they've updated all of the classes, the ability to access, the range of access that you have, all of that. They've been doing really great at doing a lot more of that for the soldier. Now they're taking it away. There's no real, the reason is budgetary probably, but when every year we get the military budget, like this is the thing. That really sucks being a soldier or anybody in the military when you're like an E-nothing or you're an a sergeant or staff sergeant or something like that. And you realize that there's all of this money that comes in, like $842 billion for our last thing. We're not even at war anymore. Like we don't even have a big war happening. And Ukraine money isn't it because that's its own money that we keep dumping into it. So where does all that money go to? Because it certainly was never going to anybody who needed to take a class, anybody who needed to go to sergeant school. I've talked about it plenty of times. I'm not going to get too far into it this time, but it costs money to send soldiers to school, but the soldiers need to go to the schools to better their careers and become better soldiers, right? Like that's the concept. But especially when you're a part-timer, you're reserve or National Guard, those slots get taken up by the active duty folk. And when I went through my staff sergeant training, I was the only reserve person there out of like 18 of us. All the rest of them were active duty. So the sergeants that were in charge, the NCOICs told me, it's like, look, usually we have a better ratio. I just happen to be the only part-timer on my class. But regardless, it took a while for me to get that class. Like it took me getting denied a couple of times for no reason, because like the only thing you need to qualify to go is pass a PT test, pass height and weight, and be of a certain, like, at a rank for a certain amount of time. You know, not hard things to pass for any normal person in the Army, right? So it was never anything that I was doing. It was never my fault. But that money, you know, that's just not money that you get. So this now shutting down is an even bigger thing, because of course there are people who are in the middle of courses. These are not like, oh, I'll just, you know, knock out my A+ in a couple of weeks. It takes time. And when you're in the Army, you have a day job. You know, you've got other things that you have to do. So you're doing these things on your own time, off work or on the weekends and things like that. Now, look, I get that just because we're in the Army and just because we're veterans doesn't mean that we are necessarily privy to anything extra beyond our paycheck and the benefits provided to us, right? However, being in the Army fucking sucks. Like, outright. There's a lot of cool times in it, but a lot of times it really, really sucks. And all these extra benefits, you know, especially ones that help you boost your career, whether it be in the military or not, are all added benefits that, so, you know, like, hey, look, you can join the Army and you get access to this thing where you can get all kinds of free learning to do on your own time and get certifications. You know, it's not necessarily, you're not getting an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree out of it, but you don't really need a lot of those things, especially in a place like IT. Like IT, it's always good to like have a degree, but I'm so far removed from getting my degree 10 years ago that nobody gives a shit that I have a degree. They want to know what I've been doing for the last 10 years, and that's what's on my resume now. So there are a lot of benefits that come with this that are just being completely taken away. And look, there's a lot of quality of life things with soldiers right now that also we've talked in length about, you know, whether it be living conditions, daycare conditions, just working conditions, operational tempo. All these things really wear down on a person. And look, nobody ever, you know, the old Marine slogan, nobody ever promised you a rose garden, right? You kind of know what you're getting into, and hey, it's not a draft, so it's on you. But also at the same time, when you're in the middle of a recruiting and a retention crisis, getting rid of things like this is not where you try to cut a couple corners. You know, I can't imagine what the budget for this is going to be. Maybe a couple of $1 million at the most, like for the amount of people that are accessing this and actually using it. I don't know. I can't say for sure. I feel like that there's probably a good government discount that we're getting for having something, you know, really big, something that has a wide-ranging ability to have all these different courses and have access for all these different soldiers anywhere that you have internet, you can do these things. And they're just kind of taking that away. And that's really fucked up. What's even more fucked up is they're not taking away the normal online training that we all have to do, which is actually completely useless. Like anti-terrorism 101. Look, maybe going through that once, sure. But there is a lot of times we're going through a lot of different courses. Like there is the one that taught us how much, if we're at an embassy, how much dollar worth of a gift we can receive. I'm never going to be at a fucking embassy. Why am I taking this class? Make the people who go to an embassy take these courses. That's not me. Law of War is also another one, which like is important, but the thing is law of war and rules of engagement can be two different things. So when you get to your war zone that you're going to go do your war in, the law of war stuff, a lot of that kind of goes out the window. Now look, definitely we need more training on don't do war crimes, but I feel like there's a heavy skewing of who's doing war crimes, and it's not the public affairs reservist, all right? I'm not doing the war crimes. I showed up, I took some pictures, I ate Burger King from the Burger King trailer, I fucking went home. I was not Eddie Gallaghering myself all over Iraq and Afghanistan. So really sucks. I feel for the people out there who were trying to get some kind of certification, not able to land it now because of this. We're having to start back over. And look, it's free. So like, they give it to you for free. They can always take it away. But again, you're really not helping your case here. You're not helping anybody like become somebody who wants to stay, like if the only other choice is, and there are other choices in here, there's Udemy, I think, I don't know how to pronounce it, but some people are saying it's free with a .mil account. Some people are saying it's not. I don't know if everybody still gets a .mil email account anymore, because Lord knows, again, budget. They don't want to spend the money to go to Microsoft to say, yeah, here, give everybody an email address. Same thing, like they're just trying to find places to cut corners when, like, regularly the Pentagon fails its audits, like literally has not passed an audit in years. Why don't you focus on those things? Like, there are so many other places to focus on where the fucking money is going. Like, what hole is the money disappearing down into? And I can spend 20 minutes Googling and I'll find you 12.5 stories of all those holes that money went down into. But this hole, for some reason, is the one that's getting filled up. I don't get it. But I'm not Army leadership. Maybe they know something that I don't. I doubt it. And a lot of times when I was a young buck soldier, when I was in my first 10 years, before I got really fucking cynical, you have those moments where you're just like, man, I think I'm smarter than everybody else here in this room. Like, I feel like I have a better idea of what's going on. But then you think, like, no, you know what? Maybe the colonel knows something I don't know. Maybe the sergeant first class isn't talking out of his ass. I'm a young soldier. I don't know. And then you get onto your back half. You get to that post 10 years, and you're like, no, everybody here is a fucking idiot. And that's, I know that's endemic anywhere that you go. Probably if you're a smart person, you're thinking, like, I don't understand why we're doing this, and nobody's giving you a reason. That's usually a sign that there's no good reason for this happening other than somebody with enough pull decided to make it happen. So I'm sorry to all of you troops out there who are having this kind of pulled out. I'm sorry that if you're just learning about this, because this has been around for a while, and learning that it's going away. It sucks. It sucks to have stuff like this taken away from you. So as always, the Army's going to fuck you over. What did you expect? Like, the Army, I always try to tell people, if you're dead set on joining the military, if you really want to join, first off, join the Air Force is answer number one. But secondly, if you really want to join the Army, understand that it's never going to love you as much as you think that maybe it should. And you can love the Army to a point, but just understand that, like, for all of the cool times when you're, like, out on the range shooting a grenade launcher and having a good old time with your friends, there's going to be just, like, days and days worth of bullshit that you're going to have to wade through, and really stupid people who are, who, and I'm not going to, like, I'm going to sound insulting here, and I'm not trying to be, because keep in mind, I stayed in for 20 years, so this kind of is me as well. But for a lot of people, especially NCOs, like, you hit a certain point in the military where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, but I'm 30 now, and I don't know where to go with myself, because all I know is I joined the Army and I did my first hitch and I re-enlisted for another hitch, and now I'm sitting at 10 years or I'm sitting at 12 years, and I'm thinking, why not do the last 8 years? And the problem is that if you don't like being in the Army, that's not going to do well for you or the soldiers that you're over if you're just a big old grumpus the whole time. Or alcoholic with 2 divorces under your belt. One way or the other. All right, next up. Chinese Jody hit with jail time after stealing a military spouse. Would you believe that there are actually some countries that punish this kind of thing? For those of you who don't know what a Jody is, Nate and I talked about it on our recent dad chat, but Jody is the catch-all name, the non-gendered person who is stealing all of our significant others. I was mostly around men in the military. I went to an all-male basic training, so Jody was the guy that was fucking all of our girlfriends. However, Jody also can be a woman who can be fucking your girlfriend too, or your husband or boyfriend, depending. So Jody is always there. Jody is always waiting in the wings. Like as soon as you step onto the bus to go to a 1-month training, Jody is there to make sure that that your girlfriend has somebody to talk to. She's got somebody to talk to. That's what she needs. She really needs somebody to talk to, somebody she can open up to, somebody who will listen. And unfortunately, that's not you because your dumbass is out in the field getting shit on by God knows what. This is the way of the world. I've been Jodied before. Like it just happens. You stay in the military long enough and you become a romantic at any point in time, you're probably going to get your heart broken. It's fine. It's gonna happen probably. Just brace yourself for it. But in China, they don't let you do that stuff. So this is from Sarah Sicard on Military Times. Link down below for you. So it starts out, all's not fair in love and war. Sometimes there is he who lies in wait, plotting to steal significant others when service members are off fighting. His name, of course, is Jody, and he exists everywhere. In China, there are, in fact, consequences for such inhumanities. One Chinese man was recently sentenced to 10 months in prison for ruining the marriage of a PLA soldier after he dated and moved in with the soldier's wife. So, according to a report, China's criminal law stipulates that anyone cohabitating or marrying another person, knowing that he or she is the spouse of a PLA soldier, will face imprisonment of up to 3 years. Now, this guy claims he didn't know. He says, reportedly began the affair with a former co-worker who was also, unbeknownst to him, an army wife. And when the co-worker told him and the punishment associated, he broke it off. But you know what? Sometimes it's just too good, and you can't stay away. So he kept going back and moved in, and the military spouse put in for divorce. And you know what? Here in America, that's just normal. That's just what happens. Like you hear about that happening, you're like, yeah, that sucks, man. It sucks, but that's fucking Jody, man. What are you gonna do? Then there's nothing you can do because it's Jody. But in China, yeah, you don't get away with that. This goes along with not quartering troops in people's houses. There should have been another amendment of if you are knowingly hooking up with a soldier's wife, you go to jail for a little bit. I understand. I want everybody to make sure, like, it's a two-handed, it's a double-bladed sword, right? Like, because also I don't want women or men who are staying at home while their loved ones are gone to feel like that they are hamstrung. Like, I was dumped on a deployment. I wouldn't wish any ill will on my ex or the guy that she's with now. Maybe in the moment I would have. I was 26. I was angry, sure. But, long term, I don't wish any kind of ill will on anybody for that. It is what it is. Not going to get into my love life here, but the fact that somebody can be punished for this, for knowingly wrecking a marriage, I think is kind of the big thing here. And the military does have like laws against extramarital affairs. You can go to jail for it, for cheating on your spouse, especially with somebody else in the military. Those are all like inside of the UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice, that you can't do that. Sodomy also illegal. And sodomy includes oral too. So keep that in mind when you think about what they are and aren't enforcing in the military. But I'm glad it's. Again, I'm not necessarily glad. I'm not saying that I want to see this, happen to everybody, but also like all of us want to see Jody kind of get kicked in the nuts, like at least once. Like maybe I don't wish long-term hatred on the guy, but like in the moment, if I could have seen him like rack his nuts really hard on like a metal railing or something, just like completely out of the blue, like he slips and falls and just, nothing permanent, but just like, it'll make you feel a little bit better. So we can all collectively dump our feelings of relief, our revenge on this one Chinese guy who's going to go to jail for 10 months for wrecking another Chinese guy's marriage. Look, you never have to hand it to the People's Liberation Army, but like a soldier is a soldier. So like if there is one thing that we can all like hands in, soldiers from all across, we put our hands in and be like, my wife left me. My girlfriend dumped me. Like we all that's a thing that we all explain. Not only that, but also anytime you see something long and hard, you have to pretend that it's your penis at some point in time. Just part of the rules of being a soldier. All right. So, thumbs up to this guy. Hope that he has an okay time in jail. Hope that he and Jan, this young woman, can get back together and maybe afterwards. It sounded like she was kind of done with her soldier to begin with anyway, so maybe something kind of good will come out of it. I don't know. You know, there's trials and tribulations that really make the heart grow fonder, or while he's in jail, she's going to find a whole nother Jody. But at least this time, it's legal because he's in jail and nobody gives a shit about those guys, apparently. So let's go ahead and move on over to the next segment. All right, we're going to revisit the Woman's Home Companion from 1943. This is a public opinion poll that was put out, and these are the results of the poll. But first, we're going to a little introduction to the poll and the questions that they asked, and because it's a lot about like, you know, this is 1943, end of war is still a couple of years away, but people are kind of are thinking that, you know, we're halfway through. 1941 is when America got involved. 1939 is when everybody got involved. Everybody else got involved, and then 41 was the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So this is a kind of a like forward thinking, like, hey, the war is going to end eventually, and the assumption is the Allies are going to win because, you know, America's in the fight now. You know, we're here to save the day. So this starts out with, in the pages of this magazine, one of the most significant trends in public thinking in recent times is recorded. You will find in it the results of the 5th companion poll. One question asked was, quote, "Do you believe we should be devoting thoughts now to after-war problems?" End quote. 84% of the replies carried a ringing and emphatic yes. 16% were in the negative, and even among those, written-in comments reveal deep and active interest in what is to take place when the war is won. The significance of the replies lies in two directions. One is the well-developed trend they reveal away from our traditional isolationism. The other, even more important for the immediate present, is growing the awareness of a purpose in the fighting of the war. A purpose which has been sadly lacking to date. As one companion reader put it, quote, "I believe we will fight all the harder if we feel this war will really get some concrete results," end quote. Perhaps no other war in our history has been fought with so much confusion and bewilderment as this one. Just wait. We entered in it against our wishes. None of us wanted it. When it finally came, it came because it was thrust upon us. And we found ourselves with nothing, apparently, to fight for, only something to fight against. And with this negative aim alone to spur us, we have gone about the task grimly. But out of the confusion now comes growing clarity. We began to have a sense of positive aim to the struggle. We have a growing realization that we fight not alone to eradicate fascism and its horrors, but to establish a new goal in human progress, a goal that will be reached in the final and complete liberation of the common man. A number of international thinkers have pointed out that this is not a war but a revolution. It is, but it's not a new revolution. It is not one that has been recently broken out. It is a culmination of a revolution that began with our war for independence, the American Revolution. Hold the phone there. All right, that is a bit of a stretch, I'm going to say, but you know, it's patriotism. Let's roll with it. At the end of the arrival of the machine and the industrial revolution it brought, has already freed man from serfdom and given him the independences to live his own life and speak his own thoughts. But still, it took the bloody war of 1776 and the French uprising of 1789 to turn that independence into a political right. Today, through his perfection and further application of the machine, man finds himself freed from a lifetime of continuous toil, and his struggle now is to wrest himself from the political right to enjoy this additional freedom in dignity and security. For of what avail, he has not to ask himself, is freedom of speech if one cannot buy the bread to sustain his voice? Of what comfort is freedom of worship if, through the unhindered accumulation of power in evil hands, one must fear for his life? Of what value is freedom from endless labor if one must look with despair to a penniless old age? Brought together as never before by widely distributed periodicals and newspapers and by radio broadcasting, all of us in unity today are determined that governments today shall truly reflect our wishes and be cognizant of our welfare, and that it shall not be controlled by ruthless leaders or selfish groups. And we begin to realize we fight not only those that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth, but also so that such government may become a living reality for all time. It is set up to organize for such conditions that the American people insist on the discussion of post-war aims and policies now. It seems to me, writes one companion reader, that the greatest significance of this war is what is to come after. I would like to believe that what is the beginning of an era wherein we will have a chance for every individual to have decent surroundings and enough of everything. It is this post-war world for which we fight, and we wish to see it. We wish to visualize it clearly and distinctly, ready for the triumphal entry of the common man. So before we get into the actual meat and potatoes of the three questions and the further discussion that kind of comes from that, keep in mind, again, 1943. This is before civil rights, but it is after women's suffrage. So the American freedom and the desire for things better really still only applies to some people in America, not to all. So it is a little tongue-in-cheek, but again, 1943, these are the people who are writing in and discussing these sorts of things. And I believe that it's good to do so. It's good to have, even in 1943, April of 1943, no less. So, still kind of early in the year, to have these conversations, to have the discussions, not only in the magazine, but amongst ourselves. What do we do after the war? This was never really a discussion that we could have during Afghanistan, because that war, one, didn't really affect everybody, at least not in the same way it affected you if you deployed, or you if you had somebody who deployed, which, be honest, was a small amount of people in America. Both the people who served and the people who were affected by those who served. But also it was hard to ever see a end to that war. In World War II, what is the end goal but smash fascism, drive Hitler into his bunker to kill himself, as we eventually did, stop imperialist Japan from doing imperialist Japan things. We had clear stated goals. We had things that we were going to do. And then now, though, it was 20 years of we're going to stop terrorism by shooting a bunch of people in this one tiny country over here that really had nothing to do with the original attacks, other than this is where Osama bin Laden had guys do those jungle gym videos where they're climbing through tunnels and they're going over hand over hand over the handlebars and stuff. So there's a bit of a difference, and I'm a little jealous. I'm going to say I'm not jealous of them having a war that killed 50 million people, obviously. But I am jealous of them having a war that had purpose, at least, and finding that purpose. As they say, we're doing this because we were attacked, not because we wanted to do this. And to be fair, that's why you should go to wars, because you're attacked, not because you shouldn't be projecting power. You should be doing it because you're dragged into war, not because you're just all gung-ho to go do some bullshit. So it is good that they are having these conversations and having these national conversations. And these conversations happened all over the place, too, not just in your Woman's Home Companion, in magazines, radios, whatever the 1943 water cooler was, which it probably was an actual water cooler of some sort. But these conversations are happening, and there is an end goal. There is one day this war is going to end, and how do we deal with that? We never had those conversations about Afghanistan. It was always just kind of assumed we're going to be there forever. That's, and correct me if I am wrong. If any of you ever, at the beginning, because I remember the beginning of the war, I was there for it. I went to Afghanistan in 2004. I was in basic training when 9/11 happened. So, because I am old, but I was there for the beginning of it. And there certainly was kind of okay, so we're going to do this thing. We're going to route these guys. We're going to put some kind of government in charge that, likes us, and we're going to, be done with it. And, a basic misunderstanding of who the Afghan people are, how things work on that side of the world. It's not a European power like Germany that we're fighting, who, at the time and currently, Germany was a European country fighting other European countries. Europe fighting Europe is a thing that we're very well familiar with for many, many, many centuries. Since there was a Europe, since there was, one bucktooth guy on an island yelling at the bucktooth guys on the mainland and throwing rocks at each other, there's been wars in in Europe. But Afghanistan was a completely different beast that I certainly didn't understand because I was 20 and didn't understand anything. But I don't think that really a lot of people understood. So it was hard to have those conversations beyond, well, they're Muslims, so we hate them because they hate our freedom or whatever. So this is just I wanted to share that, and like I said, we're gonna flip on over to the actual questions here. So there are 3 questions, and they break them down percentage-wise. It says the answers have been analyzed by geographical sections of the country, but generally everybody, east, north, south, and west. I don't know how they're breaking those up. Certainly, all of us Midwesterners can have that argument later about whether Ohio counts or not. It doesn't. No matter what Wikipedia tells you, Ohio doesn't count for anything. But it does have a total, and the total percentage lines up with pretty much everything else. So question 1 is, what do you believe? We should be devoting thought now to after-war problems, or we should not? Parentheses, such discussions tend to lessen our war effort. So they're trying to, a lot of times when they do polling questions like this, there will be a, maybe a little bit of tweaking, but why should you not? And maybe to say because it would lessen our war effort. I don't know how it would, but certainly some people might believe so. The people who believe we should be devoting to after-war thoughts in totality was 84 to 16%. Question 2, should there be a permanent world congress to act upon international disputes? 92% say yes, 8% say no. And question 3, if yes, should we grant such a body the power and means to enforce its decisions? 95 say yes and 5 say no. And we'll talk, like I said, it breaks it down a little bit more. I wish I could talk to some of the people. Obviously, most of them are probably dead because this is 1943. But, these people who, granting the body of power the means to enforce decisions, 5% saying no. Why? And not in a shitty way. I am curious as to why you would say, give them this power, but don't give them the power to enforce it. So question 1, it says, the farmer plants in the winter months to plant his seeds, and when summer comes, he's all ready to go to work. A stupendous number of our reader reporters believe, like the farmer, that preparedness is important, especially for thought now on after-war problems. No muddling and hasty decisions for us, not one American asleep at the switch when peace comes. There were plenty when war came. Advanced planning is extremely important, while adjustments will be necessary for the framework will stand. If we do not plan ahead for our future needs, we should be faced with a scramble for jobs, materials, and the necessities of life. And if we wait until peace to make preparations, too many important problems will confront us all at one time. But preparedness is not the only reason for planning now. Assurance of a definite goal as an incentive to victory rates high with the voters. We can and will fight better if we know what our present war aims are. A clarification of our peace aims will encourage friends and discourage enemies. Peace seems nearer when we make plans for it, and makes people more anxious for it to come. The after-war problems are largely the neglected problems which caused the war. In addition to preparedness and assurance, the women feel a great need for study and education on post-war planning and problems. Education must be begun now to inform all people of their responsibilities as well as the privileges of peace. The thinking and planning should be done by capable men not connected with the actual war effort. There are available some splendid men who can be planning our way of working and help for the future times. We must have education and discussion now so that our representatives have a definite public opinion behind them, guiding and backing them up. What of the scant 16%, 1 out of 5, who favor no thought to after-war problems? One woman gave quite a lot of thought to these problems, but didn't think others should. The rest believe that every ounce of effort should be applied to winning the war. Conditions may be different when peace actually comes. Although the effort is needed now to win this war, after-war problems can be handled when they come. To give time and thought to after-war problems now will be to give the general public the idea the war was won. Since American singleness of purpose has often been given credit for their success, we should concentrate on winning the war. The problems may be so different after the war is over that the time spent on them now would have been wasted. America is too prone to assume it is called on as savior of the world. So that is for question 1, and I gotta say I would fall in the yes, you should be planning your win scenario here. But I understand a lot of these, the America assumes itself as the savior of the world. Problems now, wasting time on them because the problems now are going to be probably different. And that did actually, that did happen. Like at this point, I like the internment camps weren't necessarily being found yet. So, the Holocaust is in full swing, but not really a lot of people know about it outside of, Nazi Germany. And of course, there's the little problem of a atomic bomb that's going to come in a couple of years, ladies. Don't worry. But still, you should be thinking about, what do you do when the war is over? Because, as they say about how do we prevent this from happening again? How do we make sure that these people are safe or whatever? Those questions need to be figured out before you completely eradicate, the entire government of Germany again. What are we going to do about it? And look, man, Germany went through some shit. Like World War I, like World War II was fed directly from World War I. I am not going to say, they had a point. Of course not. But Germany kind of got fucked after World War I, but also, fuck you, Germans. Like, what the fuck were you doing? And then, the whole East-West Germany thing coming after that. Like, they've been through some shit. So I have sympathy for your average German who did not want to put up with any of this bullshit. But for the German government and everything like that, not so much. I have a question, too. A whopping majority think the World Congress is the only way to ensure peace, and they have definite convictions. This time, the United States must do no sidestepping of responsibilities, as for the politics, positively taboo. If we had maintained our responsibilities in the League of Nations, this war would not have gone beyond Ethiopia. America must grow up and take its place in the world. Isolationism is an antiquated idea. We would surely realize by now that distance barriers are down, gone forever. We've wasted too many years turning up our noses at our brothers in other parts of the world. America should be represented in the World Congress through national referendum and not through appointments by political parties in power. Representatives should be chosen above reproach and approach and should include women members. Many problems may be solved better from a woman's viewpoint. Sure. There should be a Congress, but since the ways of East and West differ so widely, each country should work out its problems the way best suited for its people. Each nation would control its own internal affairs. A central government would control the international affairs. No trust in Europe and the failure of the League of Nations seems to be the contributing factors to the small percentage of no's, outnumbered more than 11 to 1. A few with low regard for human nature feel we'd be the financial suckers and the World Congress would only provide vacations for political favorites, plus a tendency towards dictatorship. My faith in our allies is not great enough to put much faith into a World Congress at this time. War makes strange bedfellows. The machinery necessary to set up a World Congress would be so unwieldy there would be no greater value than the League of Nations. It might present even more opportunity for international quarrels. How could it enforce its decisions except by armies? And is that what we want? Too many of the world powers fail to live up to their agreements. Here's the only trace of isolationism we found. Let's stay in our own backyard, be friendly to all nations, but always be prepared. Well, unfortunately, the no's were very correct on a lot of this, but not for lack of hope and believing. We want to believe that the best way to stop this war and to stop wars, going forward, is to have one big, great big government that will make sure that everybody does what they're supposed to do and nobody gets froggy and out of line. We have the United Nations, which, kind of does that. If you're a Central African warlord, you're probably fucked. If you're like a Bosnian nationalist, you're fucked. But if you're George W. Bush, we will actually go to war against the UN if they ever try to arrest an American. Yeah, the UN, the Hague, the courts, any of that stuff, we don't allow it. And that's just how that's who we are as a country, as Americans, unfortunately. So the no's kind of had it right on this one, but also I'm not going to say that it was a bad idea. It was just poorly executed because how do you do something like this? How do you create a United Nations? And yes, how do you enforce these things without violence? Now, personally, Joe and I have talked. We were discussing Armenia during the last Azerbaijani incursion into Armenian areas, about how the United States does have, and I do believe, we have an obligation to stop genocides. And we have kind of, like, Holocaust, obviously. And then don't read too far into the USS St. Louis, though. But we did intervene in the Balkans. There's Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore for a fucking reason. And there were a lot of times that we have, and there's been a lot of times we haven't, because truly it comes down to, is this politically expedient for the United States? We're never going to launch a bomb unless we think that, one, we can get away with it, and two, is this going to be useful for us sometime down the line? So, I do believe that there is kind of a place for that. Unfortunately, America is run by insane capitalists who are here to make money. Read into Operation Paperclip if you want to see exactly how Americans felt about Nazis, especially the scientists. Just because you're a Nazi doesn't mean that we can't recruit you to come build rockets for us, I suppose. We got a whole Soviet Union to fight next, buddy. So question number 3, our last one. When it comes to enforcing this World Congress, some of the no's must have come around on second thought. But the percentage of ayes raises to a new high. Any lawmaking body should have power of enforcing its laws and decisions. Otherwise, such a body is useless. If the League of Nations had such powers to enforce its mandates, we might have been spared this latest mess. An idea is all right, but to be able to give that ideal strong, concrete expression is much better. These two comments express the majority accompanied by, if the ideas behind the League of Nations could be used by a group that had power to enforce their decisions, international disputes could be settled without war. We have international law now, but is utterly disregarded. Had it been enforced at the first misdemeanor, perhaps it would have stopped there. A world police force should be established. All racial and tariff-traded barriers should be removed. Oh, drop all borders, hell yeah. A World Congress must be so powerful that all nations respect it. The World Congress should have power over all nations, and every nation should be represented. Those against any powers of enforcement, though a small minority, are equally articulate. They seem to feel that such powers will cause Mars to raise its ugly head again, Mars being the god of war. That nations are too greedy and jealous, human nature again, and differ too greatly. Dictatorship enters into and may be a loss from democracy. Only our elected Congress should make decisions for us. A Congress should not be given the power of enforcing its ideas as laws without first giving the people involved a chance to designate whether or not they are agreeable to the majority or not. No feasible plan of enforcement has yet been offered, and the League of Nations was not practical. So those are the three questions that were posed, and I have to say, like, again, a lot of hopefulness with the ayes, but a lot of the nays kind of had it right to worry about, can we do this? Would we represent everybody? Would everybody get a seat at the table? And also to say, like, okay, you're a nation, you're a country, you're America, you are Russia, you are China, but also there's this government that's above you. I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who are always going to have problems with that. So a World Congress was really never going to happen. And I know it's one of those idealized things in Star Trek, the whole president of Earth. Everybody is, BFFs with one another, which, kind of works when you have transporter technology and you can hit a button and be, from Podunk, Missouri, and go to Tokyo for vacation if you want. A lot of those barriers would have to be broken down before we can really do that. And a lot of cultural exchange has to happen, and a lot of cultural integration, which we just don't have right now. Again, most Americans don't know how people in the Middle East work. And I say Middle East, Afghanistan's not the Middle East. Like Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, all wildly different countries in their own ways, with different cultures, different customs, different languages, but your average, kind of dumb American is going to say, well, it's brown people and they're talking in a language I don't understand, so it must be, I don't know, something from over there. And until we can really break that kind of stuff down, we're not going to have a, hey, let's all, hold hands and sing Kumbaya, which, I would love for us to be doing. We're just not there yet. And there's going to be war. And I know now in 2023, we can all see a lot of regional wars still going on. And while there's not a overall world war yet, I think we can all see how it could happen, or how like our own country could kind of fall into a civil war. I don't think that's going to happen, but I do understand why people might be concerned about it. And I do see where those concerns would come from. So, even in World War II, and these people are talking about a war to end all wars when we already had a war to end all wars. That was what the Great War was supposed to be. And here we are having World War II, and here we are having, Korea, having Vietnam, having, what's happening in, well, not happening currently, what has happened in South America with American interventionism. African countries are cooing each other left and right. You coup yourself, you don't coup somebody else, but cooing themselves left and right. Hey, guess who trained most of them? It's your tax dollars at work. But obviously, peace is not here yet, and we're gonna have a little bit of time until we have that. So, Women's Home Companion, April 1943. I hope to find more of these. I have a print copy of this. Maybe I'll be able to find some other ones. But periodicals back in the 40s and 50s were great because they weren't all written by AI, so they make sense. You had actual like talented people who were creating a lot of these things. I suggest picking these up if you want to read some cool. There's meet your meat man halfway. That lovely spring feeling. A lot of great stories, prairie romance. This is back when, you didn't necessarily, you had books, but also, sometimes books were released in periodicals in chapter form or just, different parts of it. So, which is why I haven't really gone into any of those because, well, I don't, like I said, in the last one, I don't want to leave you on any cliffhangers. But, so that's Women's Home Companion. We'll find something else to go through next week. All right, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I wanted to make sure that I got this one out because this is going to be the last one of these episodes that I get out before the end of the month, because at the end of the month is when we're turning over to a new quarter for the quarterly. So if you want to get in on this month's quarterly care package, $10 a month on the Patreon will get you access to it. I'm going to show you guys what's going to be coming in this one. And a few exclusives, a few things that are not going to be in the store for a little bit. So if you want to get down on these things, you need to get onto them now. First off is one that's near and dear to my heart. I have been promising a PAO something since I began doing this, and I never really got around to it because I couldn't really find the marriage of public affairs and something that anybody else gives a damn about. PAO is not that well known. There's not too many PAOs out there. But if you add aliens into it like this, the Area 51 PAO, deny, disclaim, and disavow, with a little cow there, I feel like I'm finally found some place where I can two roads can converge. And so this one's coming out. This is going to be one of my first oval stickers. A little basic in its design, but I really like that. I'm really into the kind of stark colors right now. A lot of the painting that I'm doing is very black and white too, and I'm trying to break out of that. But I really like this one. I was kind of waffling on it because I didn't know if it's going to be popular, but fuck it, I like it, so I'm going to make it. And if you like it, you can get it in the care package. Next up, we're going to have the Dick Gun coffee delivery truck. Each one of these little things, you might think this is a multiple launch rocket system. It's not. Those are going to shoot little bags of coffee at you and probably put your eye out or something. But we can at least promise that the Dick Gun coffee is not built on racism. That's the one promise that we firmly bring to you here, is that none of this shit requires racism for you to enjoy it. You can enjoy Dick Gun coffee no matter who you hate or love. We prefer that you love people, though. going a little bit more into I read Men Who Stare at Goats a long time ago. I've never watched the movie, but the book is very good because the book is a more of an informational book about psychic operations in the military and how insane it was that we were doing that. But it was the 70s, cocaine, acid, it's a whole thing. So Psychic Ops is one of the first ones that I've created. I like the little color wobblies in it. This is another one that I kind of agonized over a little bit because just how to get the design right and everything, and we make it look like a patch or what. So I like this one too. I put this one together. I had the idea and the concept of it put together pretty quickly, and then I've been touching up on it. So that's going to be in there too. And then finally, so this is a more the Dick Gun logo, the Dick Gun Coffee Company logo. This is going to be coming to you as a temporary tattoo, a little 2-inch temporary tattoo that you can put on any part of your body. I want to make sure that you can really show your love for the Dick Gun Coffee Company and the slogan, "Your gun is your dick, now so is coffee." I've been really enjoying doing a lot of Dick Gun stuff recently, so that's going to be in there too. First temporary tattoos. I learned that the company I get these from, this is kind of a recent thing, so I'm getting these because I'm really excited to see kind of how these might come out. So again, if you're on the $10 level before March 1st, you're gonna get this sent out to you. All right, and finally, this is not going to be in the care package, but this is something fun that I made. A joke that we have here in St. Louis is that the Arch is a weather station. My brother works as a park ranger at the Arch, and every time we have really shitty weather, I text him to go hit the big button down on the Arch to make the weather nice. So that's going to be coming out. I might have these in the store. I have a small run of these because mostly these are for local vendor events that we do. But I might throw these up just because I really like it. It's something I put a lot of time and effort into, and I think it came out really well. So that's what's going to be coming at you. Patreon.com/hellofawaitodie. You get all of that, and then, like I said, every 3 months I send something else out. I've always got new stuff coming out for the patrons, and we do really appreciate your money because it makes it so that we don't have to try to sell Casper mattresses to you, or Stamps.com, or edible underpants, or I don't know what's the other a box of food for you to cook because you can't go to a grocery store and buy a carrot. Apparently, I don't know. So that's all going to be there. And again, like I said, eventually those things will be in the store. But because I like to maintain a little bit of exclusivity for some of these things, probably not going to be for a month or so until a lot of that stuff hits the store for you. So get in on that. Get on the $10 level, and if you can't, that's fine. I understand money is tight for everybody. So whatever support that you can give us is great. Whether it be word of mouth, letting other people know about us, giving us high marks on iTunes or wherever it is that you listen to podcasts from. We do really appreciate that. We're a small show. We've always have been kind of a small show. I like being small because the bigger you get, the more weirdos that you attract. And we have a very normal amount of people who are fairly normal people. We haven't expanded out to a bunch of weirdos yet. One day, maybe. One day. But I do like that we kind of keep this small and close-knit. I really enjoy having the community that we do have. Any dollar amount on the Patreon gets you into our Discord that we have with Lions Led by Donkeys, and that's a great place to be. Myself and Joe and Tom are in there all the time. So check that stuff out. As I said, that's all on the Patreon. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.